All right, we are back. We got a few minutes between rounds here, so we're gonna take a little second to sit back and think about some stuff. It's time to ponder with Colin, me, Colin from the Attack Action Podcast. I'm joined by with how do I? I'm joined with
I
by
can be with you or
you
by
can
you,
be with and by me at the
whatever
same
you
time.
prefer.
Sam O'Byrne. You know what? This is a time for me to ask some questions that I don't have answers to, but we're just going to talk about it.
We're gonna pond.
Yeah, we're going to ponder because, I've got the face that looks like I'm thinking about something when I'm really just, wondering what's for dinner or how much more Kano I can fit into my schedule. So let's dive into it. I think we got a couple of topics today that I think are somewhat relevant and interesting to talk about. So yeah, we're talking about the calls for bans, and maybe when I came up with this topic, it was like, well, maybe people should stop calling for bans. But after seeing some Azalea stuff today, maybe they're right. But you know what? I don't know. Here's my thought.
Tell me.
This is what we're pondering on.
Okay.
Should we just cool it on this calling for bans like 2 weeks after a set comes out? We're in a new meta, and the first thing people do is see a hero do really well, and then they call to ban a bunch of cards. And my reaction is, well, why don't you just adjust how you're playing against this hero first, and then come back with a ban idea later? So I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I guess. Well, this is. I'm but the guest on your talk show here. So.
I'm asking the questions. So.
Oh man. Well, can I will respond to your question with the question. What do you think constitutes a ban in Flesh and Blood? When do you look at something and you think to yourself that needs a ban?
I think when there's like a proven track record over a period of time that shows that something is like absolutely busted, or if you can point to the card directly and say why it violates the core tenets of the game.
Sure.
We saw this with like Awakening. It basically encouraged you not to block and then do something completely insane that you gain nothing but value from. So that was like clear,
Sure.
Duskblade. Just busted.
We didn't even get a chance on that one.
Anybody who did try to take a chance was like, "Yep, this is busted." So things like that make a lot of sense. Starvo probably should have been banned. I'm going to say that. That's okay. I can say whatever I want.
This is your show.
This is my show.
We just created this just for you to get your willies out.
And I think in the past, LSS has been really great about looking at the meta and banning certain things. They suspend cards where they think they need to be suspended. They ban them outright when they think they're broken. And they've been very kind of transparent on the reasons why, and I think that's all really great. They've also been transparent on the fact that they will use this suspension and banning to manipulate the meta because they want to, which you can feel about that any way you want. I just realized we got this mushroom up here that's kind of funny, but that's okay.
That's our next segment.
That's our next segment. What is this mushroom?
What is that mushroom?
But yeah, it's so, I think there are clear points where that comes into play. And I'm not against banning things. Mm-hmm. I just think when, we have one big event or like two big events and one hero does really well at that event and people's immediate reaction is like, well, this is too good, this is bad. And you're just like, just let Azalea have some fun, man. She's been like just under the rock for a couple of years.
Yep.
And all the diehards who've been playing her ever since she came out finally get a chance to like have some fun. And the first thing everything people do is call for a bunch of bans. I don't even keep track of how many bans they want, but it's Codex of Frailty. It's whatever. I mean, I guess Codex is probably the only one that I would consider we might see a ban in the future, but I don't think it really needs to be worried. Like right now, like let it play. Like,
it seems like it's from what I'm understanding for you, it's about length of time with the thing. See how the thing actually develops. If Azalea is unbeatable for 2-3 months, at that point data is clear. But we're still in the period of time where we're gathering the data and we're seeing how the cards really play, seeing if there is counterplay to something like Azalea. Codex is hard to play around. There are small ways you can, but in terms of just the hero itself, Lexi, Azalea, if these cards are pushing it too far over an extended period of time, that's when you'd want to see something change.
Yeah, and I think that has been the way they've done it. Mm-hmm. So it just seems like the reaction people have to a hero doing well is to just call for bans.
Yeah.
And I'm not into that.
Yeah.
I think, I'm also, not someone who's chasing the meta. I don't switch up my hero to play the most important, best deck in the meta at any given point. So I'm probably in the minority for a lot of people where it's just like, well, I'm going to play what I want to play, and I have to adjust that to be as good as I can into this meta. And sometimes it's not your meta to shine if you do that, and that's okay. And it can be frustrating, but I don't know. It's just I just don't see how your first response isn't, well, how do we beat this? That should be the first response, especially if you're considering yourself a competitive player. I'm calling all of y'all out. So if that is your
Where's your fire?
Yeah, like that should be your cue to like go into the lab and deck build and try to find a counter to it. And if you can't find a counter to it, you're probably supposed to be playing that deck. So figure it out, and that's easier said than done. That's why I'm not one to do it, because I'm not
Yeah, everybody,
deck
you
builder.
deck build, not me, but you do it.
Do it for the rest of us. I mean, that's how
That's
most
true.
of this works.
That's
A
true.
couple people build some decks, and the rest of us just profit. So
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
you.
you for your service. But at the same time, I think the first reaction, it just seems like kind of just overblown, and I don't know. Twitter, again, also another thing, side comment, Twitter's not the place really for, coherent discussions about stuff. So
What?
I'd rather
Really?
you have those conversations, in person and, on maybe a podcast. Or a YouTube channel. So if you have a lot of opinions that you think are relevant that you need to share, it's real easy. Just go out there and just do it for the rest of your life. Spend a bunch of time and money to make that. But yeah,
Easy enough.
Easy enough.
If you have things you want to talk about, don't go on Twitter. Start a podcast. God knows we don't have enough of those in Flesh and Blood.
We don't have enough of
Podcasts.
It's like low stakes, happy, fun podcasts where we just have a good time. Everybody's so competitive.
Ugh.
But that's fine. You do your thing. I don't know. I think that's about it. I don't have much else to say. I think it's just silly that people want to ban things immediately. And if
You
you,
want to let it marinate.
if you disagree,
Start a podcast.
don't at me. Start your own podcast.
I don't want to hear about it.
All right. So next up, I think we got something else I've been thinking about. Is staying open in Outsiders draft. How much draft have you done so far?
I have done like 6 or 7 drafts.
Okay, it's pretty good. I think I'm at like 4 or 5. And I was just thinking about this, and I've heard some other people talk about it. I think the general feeling I get is a lot of people are excited about this draft format. It seems really fun and interesting. I think the gameplay is really interesting. There's definitely more of a mid-rangey feel, and as Isaac Jessen from the Attack Action Podcast likes to say, incremental exchanges of damage. And you block, you do a little bit of damage, you pitch stack, you do all these things that are like really good core fundamentals of
Super fun.
Of Fab, which I think is great. Question being, can you actually stay open? We got a ton of generics. It's the first talentless set we've had in a while, a draftable set. And usually in that case, it means you can stay pretty open. I think the last couple metas, that has not really been the case. You've been incentivized to either go, first it was hard into Briar, and then Oldhim showed dominance, and then in Uprising, Fi, just Fi. It's like be good at the Fi mirror, and then you're good at Uprising draft. So, my question kind of is staying open real in Outsiders? One, couple factors here. One, the generics aren't equally good for all the heroes. Some of the heroes might kind of be a non-factor. Not making a totally bold statement, but it seems like Benji. I mean, Ninja in general seems harder to get together a really good deck that does what it wants to do, and then I am not sure about the rest, but so generics not always as good. So just taking generics to stay open doesn't quite get you the cards you need to do well in a draft. And then there's so many assassin cards because of all the hybrid cards that it's kind of like you should probably be an assassin. It seems so. But I don't know. What's been your experience? I feel like so far I try to stay open and I kind of just get punished because I didn't pivot into a hero much earlier in the draft.
Yeah. For me, I've had a fair amount of success not being fully open, but being open and a half, where I'm kind of between two heroes, often assassin and something else.
Mm-hmm.
There one draft I was over either going to be a ranger or a ninja, but because of the hybrid cards, I'll feel like I'm in between things. And I try to take a lot of generics kind of into pack too. I feel like the Ravels don't work well necessarily in something like a Benji unless, the it's just
blue
for two.
one.
Yeah. But, I really like just like red Seek Horizon at the end of the chain. I found looking for a scrap to just be like ridiculous. Humble. I mean, we're seeing Humble just played as a 2 for 6 in Classic Constructed out here.
Yeah.
So sometimes you can just throw that card down and just be like, what do you got about this? So I've definitely found it to be possible to an extent, but my last draft, I hadn't gotten to play Azuri yet. My first pack had red Death Touch. My second pack had red Sneak Attack. And I just said, I am forcing Azuri for the rest of this draft.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to hope that I get it and I don't get cut off. And I 3-0'd that one. So sometimes you just got to force, I think, to like. I mean, I think that's a natural thing in draft. Like you sometimes things have to just break your way, right? And I think part of what is important is just being able to read, like, am I getting the generics I need to stay open, or like, do these cards just suck? And I kind of need to like find a lane and just maybe hope things stick with me. One of the things I think interesting about what you talked about is because there are so many assassin cards that with those hybrids, it feels like maybe a pod can support slightly more assassins than the other things. So you might, like, I feel like Arachne, you can have an okay Arachne deck and still win a draft just because there are so many good stealth cards. You can just kind of get some stuff that other people won't really care about, but, 2 for Blood Rot, the yellow Blood Rot card can be okay. The yellow Inertia card can be okay in certain situations. So I don't know, but I'm certainly like, this is my first set really drafting Flesh and Blood, so I've just been loving it. Yeah, I kind of stayed away from Uprising just because no one wanted to play it if they didn't have to.
I think that's fair, and I think this is all to say. I think this limited set is great. I'm really excited about it. I think maybe staying open in the past, like in Monarch or something, would be something you do longer, and maybe staying open now, like as you say, it's kind of open, like half open. You're trying to take generics that are good, but you're also grabbing key class cards that could benefit you going along the way. The other side of this too is something we talked about in the last segment where we pondered together, but it was me and Blake.
So by together you mean?
Or was it Blake? It was Josh. I think it was Josh. Yeah.
So by together you mean definitively not us.
Well, if you go watch this, go back and watch the segment, you could be a part of it.
Okay, cool.
But the other thing being that the 2 token slots and the 14 cards that we're drafting rather than traditional 15 cards, I think does also impact.
Yeah, for sure.
The ability to stay open, how long you stay open, and what that actually looks like. So, I think, I'm kind of like a pragmatist or purist about this. I'm like, I want to draft my seat. I want to try.
So you want to you want to be open for as long as you can be, so you can read the signals.
Yeah.
And you're finding that to be not as easy as you want it to be, or
I think and this is limited data. I'm doing this on. I tried to stay really open
data.
in.
Come on.
Boom! That was unintentional. I'm basing this off of a couple drafts where I was really trying to do that, and I read my seat very well. The last draft we did, it was 6 people, which I think also it was also weird. I think that throws in some other kind of issues that may have contributed to this, but we had 2 of each hero and 2 of each class, 1 of every hero.
Wow.
And I was just like, dude, we did it, guys. Like, we drafted perfectly. And then I just had the crappiest Benji deck, which, is probably more of a me problem. But I have seen better players who have been talking about, staying open. What does that mean? Is it actually a thing, or, is it more correct to, pick those powerful class cards and go into a class quickly so that you can kind of gobble those up, and then later when people stop taking generics, you can get some good generics too.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't have any good answers. I think this is also interesting because it kind of pivots into a lot of talk of the kind of collation issues between the Belgium and Japanese packs and what they're going to do at the Pro Tour.
Well, don't ask them because they're not going to tell us.
I mean, honestly, I think that was a great response. They're like, we're gonna do this. We're gonna give you something and trust us, it's fine. And everyone's like, well, it's not fair. I was actually, this is the most fair because the only edge you get is how good you are at quickly reading packs and paying attention to your draft pool.
Yeah.
So I think that's great. If you're going to the Pro Tour, you should be pretty good at drafting. So, if you're worried about not being able to memorize the exact, pack layout, and that's the only thing that's really contributing. I mean, that's not the only thing. I'm being a bit glib about that, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. But I think I think it will be interesting. I'm excited. I was talking about this earlier. I'm really excited to see the Pro Tour limited play and what people do if we see any like real archetypes form up. And I don't know, but again, all this is just me and my silly opinions, thoughts. But thank you. I think that's all we got today for pondering with yours truly, Sam. Thank you for coming on this thoughtful journey.
It was an honor to pond with you, sir. I've never ponded so hard in my life.
I feel like I've entered a Zen state and will just not take any damage for the rest of my life.
Wow. Could we be so lucky?
All right, we'll be back in a few minutes. We're taking a short break.
Round 5 coming right up.
All right, we'll be right back.